Hi, may I help you?
Yes, Dr. Burns said we can come by and see Dr. Francisco to give us a tour.
Okay, I'll page him for you.
Thank you.
Hi kids, good morning. I'm Dr. Francisco.
I'm George.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Camille.
Hello.
I'm Sabrina.
I'm Robert.
Nice to meet you all. Welcome to TIER Hospital.
What does TIER stand for?
TIER stands for the Institute for Rehabilitation and Research. It's a hospital that's dedicated to helping people get better after they had a bad stroke or had a bad accident that has led to either a brain injury or a spinal cord injury. Dr. Burns told me that you're interested in seeing the hospital.
Yeah.
Would you like to know what we do here?
Sure.
Well, come on, follow me.
All right.
Yeah, we have kids here too who volunteer during the summer.
Oh, I want to do that.
In fact, some of them have gone on to medical school, so they come back here as doctors. Now, you'd be surprised, a lot of doctors themselves do not know that there is a specialty of rehabilitation, because it's not the usual medicine. I'm sure you've been in some other hospitals. People are really very sick. Here, people are not that sick anymore. The reason they come to this hospital is for them to get better. So we want to help that recovery of these patients. This is the gym that we use to treat our patients. It's not like the gym that you will see in the health clubs. We don't have weights here. We don't have all those fancy machines. We do have some machines, but everything serves a purpose here. We would like people to be stronger. We want their endurance to last longer as well, so that when they leave the hospital, they'll be able to go back to their homes or to another place without much problem. So, want to go for a swim? Unfortunately, you cannot. This is only for our patients. It's not a very deep pool, as you can see. We use this for aquatic therapy. A lot of our patients love it because they feel more relaxed. Our therapists use it a lot because it gives them an opportunity to help our patients. They do stretching exercises, strengthening exercises. Excuse me.
Always on call.
They teach them different things here, like walking in water, which is so much easier than just walking on the ground. Okay, this is a kitchen that our patient uses. You know, when people leave the hospital, we want them to be as independent as possible when they go home. So when we train them, we don't only give them exercises so that they will be stronger. We teach them how to do things that we normally do, like washing clothes, cooking, preparing a meal, and that kind of stuff. Any idea why we have a pool table in the hospital?
So they can have fun?
Well, they can have fun and they can do something else. Yeah, why don't you try hitting the ball? You know, and some people, we want them to be able to move their hands more, rather than just giving them some of the exercises, we ask them to do this, because not only are they having fun, they're also using the arm that we would like them to use. So everything here serves a purpose. Same thing with the piano, it's not just for fun. When we want someone to be able to use his or her fingers better, let's say someone who knows how to play the piano, we ask them to play the piano. So that way their exercise is also a lot of fun. Same thing, when we want our patients to be able to stretch out their arms more, there is one exercise that they can do. Also, it helps with coordination, because when you throw a ball, it's not just the act of throwing. You have to be able to coordinate the vision, what you're seeing, and your target.
Mother, can you reach this up here?
This is one of my favorite therapies for my patient because it forces them to use the weak hand. This gentleman here had a stroke not too long ago. He had some movement in his hand, but we want him to practice that. So we even tied this hand with a mitt so that he won't be able to use the good hand. That way, he'll be forced to use, he'll be able to use his weak hand. Okay, well, let me show you some more toys here. This toy horse, we use this for our kids. This is very helpful when we want them to improve their balance, their sitting balance, because some of them get too weak, so when they sit by themselves, their body will just plop down. So this way, while they're having fun, they're also practicing the muscles in their back and the muscles in their front, so that their balance will be better and their trunk posture will be good as well. Now let me show you some of these neat things here. I'm sure you've seen the walker that old people have. This is similar to that, but you know, when kids are only this tall, we have to adapt to their height. So they use something like this. This is particularly helpful in children with cerebral palsy. They can either walk this way, or sometimes they put this in their back so that when they walk, it's going to be more safe. This little thing here looks like it's a wheelchair. Looks like it's I call it the go-kart. But it's really not. And those who are not able to move their legs a whole lot, they can pedal using their hands, so they can wheel themselves around the hospital. Now for the toddlers, for the little babies, we play with them. I mean, they haven't learned a lot of things yet, and then they end up in an accident, for instance, or they get sick. We have to teach them how to develop normal movement. And babies don't walk. Babies don't walk yet, but babies learn how to balance when they're sitting or when they're standing. So the therapists teach them that using all these toys here, like inflatable balloons and balls, and other things. Same thing here. What we're trying to teach the kids is not just for them to have fun. When we do this, it's not just game. It's actually game and therapy. When we want them to practice using their fingers, for instance, or have them practice move their wrist, move their hand, move their entire arm, we have them do this. So not only will it help with the movement in their hands, this is also a good way to test and to treat any problems with coordination that they have. As I said earlier, they won't be able to do this unless they'll be able to coordinate what they're seeing with what they're thinking, and finally, when they're moving their hand. This is a special bed that we use. Sometimes people are very agitated, unfortunately those with brain injuries, or sometimes people with some other condition in the brain are not able to think clearly. They just have no control over their behavior, so sometimes they trash around, or sometimes in the middle of the night they will just decide to get up or roll over too much and fall. So to try to minimize the risk of having a fall, we use this veil bed sometimes. This is a relatively new bed, and we use this to protect someone from falling in case they decide to get out in the middle of the night. Sometimes it's in the form of guitar and speech therapist as well. There is a therapy called Melodic Intonation Therapy. Rather than just forcing the person to speak, they usually do it through music. They ask the person to sing. So people who have a stroke who are not able to speak well, they do better when music is involved. I didn't know they were moved here.
Hello.
Hi.
We're doing music therapy. I'm Stephanie, the music therapist.
Nice to meet you. I'm Camille.
I'm Robert.
I'm Sabrina. And I'm George.
Hello. And this is Mitzi, an occupational therapist. We're going to work on some weight bearing and reaching with Elsa. Okay? All right, Elsa, go ahead and just strum for me. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Good, Elsa. Good.
What are you doing exactly?
Just then we were working on weight bearing through Elsa's left arm and reaching, and we're about to work on her using her left arm. You want her to go forward and back or side to side? Are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. The prairie sky is wide and high, deep in the heart of Texas. The sage in bloom is like perfume, deep in the heart of Texas. Reminds me of the one I love, deep in the heart of Texas. We know some songs in Spanish. Sometimes they help us learn more. So we do Spanish songs also. That's a good question. A lot about living and a little about love. Good job. And that's it. Do y'all have any other questions?
Do you use any other types of instruments?
We use a lot of drums, a lot of shakers and maracas and rhythm instruments. This is called a cue chord. It's like an electronic guitar and keyboard.
It just depends on what they need help.
Just depends on what they need to work on. But we do all of that with Elsa.
What's your favorite? The drums. The drums. And then this one.
And the key chord. So, thank y'all very much.
And the tambourine.
Oh, you like the tambourine? and. So, thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's nice meeting you.
Welcome. Hi, how are y'all? Good. I'm Diane Roy. I'm a physical therapist here at Tier Hospital.
I'm George.
George, nice to meet you.
I'm Robert.
Robert, nice to meet you.
Sabrina.
Sabrina.
Hi, I'm Camille.
Camille, nice to meet you guys. As you guys might have learned earlier, at Tier Hospital, it's kind of a special hospital where we treat patients that have brain injuries and strokes here on the brain injury and stroke team. So what that consists of is patients that have had injuries to their brain. That may have been from something like a car accident, or they've had a traumatic injury, a motorcycle accident. We've had patients here that have had snowboarding accidents, people that have fallen off their bikes or gotten hit by cars. I'm trying to think, patients that have fallen off scaffolding. We have kids that have drowned in swimming pools. So we get a full gamut of things. As well as patients who have had strokes or possibly have had aneurysms or brain tumors or different kind of surgeries. So the types of patients we see are vary across the board. So when the patient comes here, we have a team of different healthcare professionals that are going to participate in the patient's recovery process. And that team may consist of physical therapists like myself, occupational therapists, speech therapists, music therapists. We have therapeutic recreation specialists. Also the nurse and the social worker and the physician are all a part of a team, and we all work together as a team to help the patient get the best outcome in their recovery. So we all have different roles that we are working on to help that patient. So everybody kind of has their role that they play, but a lot of that overlaps too. For instance, speech therapy may be working on cognitive things, but those cognitive things, meaning their thinking skills and their memory, are also going to affect their ability to do functional mobility things like we're working on in physical therapy.
How long are patients in physical therapy?
Well, it varies really from every patient. Like I said, depending on the extent of their injury and depending on kind of what kind of injury they have and what kind of problems they have, really dictates what their length of stay is going to be in the hospital. Some patients are here for a week. Some patients may be here for 3 to 6 months. So I would say the average is about 4 to 6 weeks. And then there's patients, for instance, like Martin here, who is able to walk and is able to do things, but we are at this point working on helping him with more controlled movement to help him to walk with a more normal movement pattern. So we're working on strengthening, working on increasing range of motion, working on smooth coordinated movements, working on balance and those kind of things. If you think of your brain as kind of the central place that controls everything in your body. That can be, it help controls your speech, it help controls things like your sight, and it also help controls your movement. So if you think of it as, it starts here in your brain, and then it sends impulses to the muscles and all the parts in your body to help your body move. So when you have a brain injury, there's like, if you think of it as like a highway, you have nerves that act as like highways for those impulses to travel on. When you have a brain injury, it's like there's a traffic jam there. So that has to find a detour or a place to find a new way to get there. So, for instance, what they're working on is trying to get Martin
to use the right side of his body, which is the weaker side. So by having him stand on his right leg and moving his left leg, it's forcing him to use those muscles in his body.
Let's turn the ladder the other way so
Do all patients recover?
That is a really good question. Like I said, patients come here with all at varying levels in their recovery process. And unfortunately, not all patients recover 100%. Some patients are able to return to school or return to work, but some patients don't. Our hope is that we can help them optimize their recovery to the best that they can. And again, that requires participation from all of the team members, the occupational therapy, speech therapy, the physician. So we all work together to try to get them to the best that they can get to. If you sit on it and you try to sit up real tall, just you can see how a patient, I mean, obviously you guys all have your balance reactions intact, so it's easy for you. But if you get a patient that is maybe has weakness on one side of their body, or their balance is affected, just an activity like this for them to sit on the ball is very difficult. So it's a way to challenge their balance. We can have them do different activities while they're sitting on the ball. Even if you just try to lift your leg up, you can see that makes it a little bit harder to balance. So we may have them doing different kind of activities that challenge their balance while they're sitting on the balls. So, so do you guys have any more questions for me today?
No.
No? Good. Well, I appreciate you guys coming. I hope you guys learned a little bit about what physical therapy is and what our role is in the rehab process, especially with brain injury and stroke patients. So,
Thank you.
thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Well, kids, I hope you had fun. I had fun showing you around. And I hope that we were able to answer your questions about our hospital.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you here.
Okay.
Have fun. Enjoy the rest of the day.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.